I spent 2 years renovating my in-laws' lake house for free. On the day it was finished, they handed the keys to my wife's cousin and said, "He'll make better use of it." My wife just nodded. "You don't even like water," she said. I drove away that night with sawdust still in my hair, and a copy of the contract they forgot I'd had them sign. I'm a 42-year-old contractor from Asheville, North Carolina, and for the past 2 years, I was rebuilding a lake house that didn't belong to me. I wish I could say I didn't see it coming, but I did. The signs were always there. I just didn't want to admit them. Not about my own wife. Not about her parents. Not about the people I thought I could trust. So here's the full story. It started 2 years ago when my wife, Melissa, said her parents' old lake house in Brevard was falling apart. It was built by her grandfather in the 70s. I'd been out there a few times early in our marriage, peeling siding, mold in the basement, sinking deck. Honestly, I never liked the place. Water doesn't do much for me. I grew up in the mountains. I don't fish, I don't swim, and I can't stand jet skis. But Melissa was excited. She said we could make it beautiful again. A family place. A shared dream. And she promised, her exact words, "It'll be ours someday." Her parents, Ron and Carla, weren't doing anything with the house. Ron threw out his back a few years ago and stopped working altogether. Carla always acted like the place was a burden. But they didn't want to sell it either. Melissa said, "Why don't you fix it up? You know how. You could make it amazing. We could Airbnb it, use it in the summers, maybe even retire there." I asked her what her parents would say about that, and she told me they were totally on board, that they appreciated us taking the initiative. She said they'd sign it over to us once it was worth something again. I was hesitant. I've worked on a lot of homes in my life. I've seen how family can go sideways real fast when money gets involved. So I said, "I'll do it, but I want something on paper." She rolled her eyes but agreed. Her parents didn't love the idea but signed the agreement anyway. Nothing complicated, just a short contract I wrote up, stating that after full renovations, they'd transfer 50% ownership of the property to me and Melissa jointly. I even had 2 buddies witness it. They all thought I was just being formal. Maybe they thought I was joking. I wasn't. For 2 years, I worked on that place nonstop. I'm talking evenings after my full-time job. Saturdays and Sundays, rain or shine. I drove over an hour each way. Sometimes I slept in the unfinished living room on a cot just so I could get more done. I ripped out all the electrical and redid it to code. Replaced the whole roof. Rebuilt the foundation on the north side after I noticed water damage. I sanded and stained every beam. Replaced all the windows with double pane. Put in a brand new HVAC unit. Poured concrete steps down to the dock. Restored the boathouse. Fixed the plumbing. I even tiled the bathrooms myself. I didn't charge them a dime. All I ever asked was that they keep their word. Fast forward to earlier this month. The job's finally done. Melissa's excited. Says we should host a little family barbecue to celebrate the transformation. I was exhausted but proud. That house looked like something out of a magazine. I thought, finally, this is what all that work was for. Melissa's cousin Travis showed up about an hour before the rest of the guests. I never liked him. He's the kind of guy who thinks he's charming but always shows up empty-handed, drinks your beer, and somehow leaves with leftovers. He got dumped a few months back and was couch surfing. Didn't think much of it. Figured he was just there for the food. The grill's going. People are laughing. Everyone's complimenting the house. Carla even said she didn't think it could ever look this good again. Then Ron stands up. He's got a beer in one hand and a set of keys in the other. And he says, real proud, "Well, we've made a decision. This house needs someone who can really use it. Travis, we're giving the lake house to you." I laughed. I thought it was a joke. Then I looked around. No one else was laughing. Melissa just raised her wine glass and said, "You don't even like water, Mike." And I swear, the world just kind of stopped moving. They started clapping for Travis like he'd done something. Carla handed him a folder. Turns out it was the title transfer paperwork, already filled out. Melissa smiled like this was all some happy surprise. I didn't say anything. I just turned around, walked out, and got in my truck. My shirt was soaked with sweat. My fingers were raw from sanding trim. I hadn't even showered yet. There was still sawdust in my hair. When I got home, I opened the file cabinet in the garage. Still had the original contract. Their signatures. The date. The witnesses. Everything. I scanned it again, emailed it to my lawyer that night. Melissa texted me once that night. "Can we talk? You're taking this the wrong way." I didn't answer. She tried calling. I let it ring. Ron tried calling. I blocked his number. I met with my lawyer the next morning. So I met with my lawyer, Carl. He's a quiet guy, late 50s, been doing real estate and contract law in Asheville for over 25 years. He doesn't say much unless it matters. I handed him the contract and told him everything. He read it over twice, didn't say a word for a full minute, then looked up at me and said, "You've got them by the throat." I asked what our options were. He said it was straightforward. We had proof of an agreement, proof of performance. My labor, the increase in property value, before and after photos, receipts for materials. I even had timestamped project logs in a notebook. "You were smart to get this signed," he said. "They'll probably try to settle once they see this. But we're not settling." I told him I didn't want money. I wanted what was mine. 3 days later, Melissa showed up at my job site, unannounced. I was laying flooring in a new build outside of Arden when I saw her walking toward me in that same fake smile she used whenever she was about to lie. "You can't sue my parents," she said without even saying hello. "I can," I said. "And I already did." She paused. "Why? What's the point? We're family. You're just making this worse." "No," I said. "They made it worse. You helped." She got defensive. Said I was twisting things. Said Travis was struggling and needed a place to live. That it was just a lake house. "You said it'd be ours," I reminded her. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "I didn't think you'd take it so seriously." That one hit harder than anything. A week later, Ron and Carla sent a response through their lawyer. It was a joke, basically a letter saying they didn't recall signing anything like that. They claimed it was a family arrangement and that I was never promised ownership. They offered me $15,000 for the trouble. I told Carl to go ahead and file the lawsuit. We added claims, breach of contract, unjust enrichment, and even a fraud count. Carl said the fraud one was shaky, but we were going to let them sweat. Then things started getting ugly. Travis posted on Facebook calling me greedy. Said I was tearing the family apart over a house I didn't even live in. Melissa's sister jumped in, saying I was always about money. Melissa started telling friends I was dangerous and obsessed. One night, I came out to my truck and found a huge scratch down the driver's side. No proof it was them, but it happened right after a tense phone call with Ron. They underestimated how far I'd go. I've worked hard my whole life. Never took handouts. Never expected anyone to carry my weight. But if you tell me we made a deal, and I hold up my end, and then you screw me, I won't walk away. About 6 weeks in, we had a hearing. They tried to delay. Claimed Ron was too sick to appear. Judge didn't buy it. We showed the contract. Carl had it blown up on a board. Clear signatures. Dates. Witnesses. Everything. The judge read it, looked right at Ron, and asked, "Did you sign this?" Ron said yes, but he didn't understand it. Judge said, "You're a grown man. You signed a contract. You're responsible for that." Melissa looked like she wanted to melt into the floor. Carla just kept her eyes on her lap. Travis wasn't even there. After the hearing, they made another offer. $30,000 to walk away. I declined again. The judge scheduled a bench trial. Carl told me, "We're going to win. Just be patient." A few days later, Melissa served me with divorce papers. Apparently, standing up for myself meant I was no longer compatible. She wanted half of everything. The house, the savings, even part of the truck I'd paid off before we even met. She tried to use my own lawsuit against me, claimed I was vindictive and unstable. That's when I found out something that changed everything. Carl called me one morning and said, "You might want to sit down." He forwarded me an email chain between Melissa, Carla, and their family attorney. Turns out, they were planning this handoff to Travis for over a year. They never intended to honor the contract. Melissa knew about it. She was helping them figure out how to make the paperwork look clean. She was in on it the whole time. She wasn't just passive. She was part of the plan. That email chain wrecked me. Carl had gotten it through discovery. The other side hadn't redacted it properly. It was supposed to be privileged, but someone screwed up. And once we had it, it was like opening a window into the truth. Melissa had known all along. A year back, Carla had emailed her saying, "We need to be smart about this. Mike's useful, but we can't let him think he's got rights." Melissa replied, "He won't. He's too focused on the work to notice." I sat there in my apartment, staring at those words on the screen. That line kept echoing in my head. He's too focused on the work to notice. And she was right. I didn't notice. I was building floors and cabinets while they were building a plan to cut me out. There were more emails. Carla called me the hired help. Melissa said I was too boring to cause drama. Travis joked that I was flipping the house for free. They laughed about me behind my back. Melissa even wrote, "We'll say he hates the lake anyway. He won't fight over it." That same night, Melissa called. No apology. Just her usual cold voice. "You've ruined everything," she said. "You should have just walked away. You don't even like the water." I told her I'd read every email. She went quiet. Then she said, "So what now? You going to burn the whole family down just to prove a point?" I said, "No. I'm going to take what you tried to steal." From that point on, I was done playing polite. Carl added the emails to the case file. The judge saw them and added a motion to consider punitive damages. Ron and Carla's lawyers started panicking. They asked to go to mediation. We agreed, just to hear them out. At mediation, Ron looked rough. Carla looked furious, like she still didn't understand why I wouldn't just let it go. Melissa showed up but wouldn't look at me. Their offer, $60,000. To make it right. Carl looked at me. I shook my head. I said, "I want the house. Or half its value. No discount." They got quiet. Travis wasn't even there. Turns out he'd gotten arrested for DUI the week before. The house was the only solid thing he had left. So Ron tried to guilt me. He said, "You're tearing this family apart over a building." I said, "No, you did that when you lied." That same week, I found out Melissa had drained most of our joint savings before filing the divorce. She moved it to an account in her name. Said she needed it for legal fees. Carl filed a motion to freeze assets. We won. That was the beginning of the end for them. But it wasn't the end for me. Because one more twist came next, and I didn't see it coming either. A guy named Steve called me out of nowhere. He said he'd seen the listing for the lake house before all this drama started. He was a local investor who bought lake properties and flipped them. Said he'd done business with Ron in the past. Said Ron owed him money. Then he said something strange. "You know Ron took out a lien on that property, right? 6 months ago." My blood ran cold. "No," I said. "I didn't." He sent me the records. It was real. Ron had quietly taken out a loan against the lake house, $40K, from a private lender. Used the property as collateral. I brought it to Carl. He shook his head and said, "They were trying to milk it dry before you showed up with your contract. Ron had leveraged the home while I was still working on it." That changed everything. The lien changed everything. Ron had borrowed $40,000 using the house I rebuilt as collateral and never told anyone. Not Melissa. Not even Carla, from what I could tell. He took the money, probably thinking the house would be worth more once I finished, and that he could flip it quick to cover his tracks. But I wasn't letting that happen. Carl filed an emergency motion with the court. We had the signed contract. We had proof I'd increased the property's value. And now we had proof Ron tried to pull cash out behind everyone's back. The judge wasn't amused. We demanded a court-ordered sale of the house. The judge approved it. Ron and Carla fought it. They begged. Their lawyer tried delaying things again. Said Ron's health was declining. Said Travis was emotionally attached to the home. Said the family was being destroyed by bitterness. Carl didn't even blink. He said, "This is what happens when you lie and get caught." So the house went up for sale. I listed it with an agent I trusted. We got 5 offers in 2 weeks. The winning offer? $405,000, cash. Ron and Carla tried to stop it. Filed an appeal. It was denied. When the sale closed, the court froze half the money for me. Melissa tried to block that, too. Said she was entitled to part of my share in the divorce. But Carl had kept everything clean. I'd separated our finances 6 months earlier, the moment I saw red flags. My payout was protected. I walked away with $202,500. After taxes and fees, I pocketed about $186,000. Ron and Carla's share? It got eaten alive. First, the $40,000 lien. Then attorney fees. Then the unpaid property taxes they'd let pile up. Then court penalties. Then the damage from Melissa's frozen accounts. They ended up with maybe $25,000. Travis? He got nothing. Literally zero. He never had any legal claim to the house. He tried to fight it, but the court shut it down hard. After that, I heard he crashed at a buddy's for a while, then moved out of state. No one seems to know where. Melissa's karma didn't stop at the divorce. She had to pay her own lawyer out of pocket, since the court found she acted in bad faith during mediation. She ended up taking a job 2 hours away and moved in with a friend. She wanted the dog. We had shared custody during the divorce, but he kept peeing on her bed, and she gave him back. As for the emails she thought were private, I gave them to her next employer. She worked in community outreach for a nonprofit. They let her go a week after reading them. Turns out, they don't like hiring people who call their husbands useful tools and too stupid to notice. She tried texting me a few months later. All she said was, "You happy now?" I didn't respond. As for me, I bought a modest ranch house on a quiet road just outside Asheville. Nothing fancy, but it's solid. Mine. I took a month off work, put up a fence, planted some trees, built a new workbench in the garage, spent time with the dog, saw my sister again after years apart. It's the first time I felt peace in a long time. One day, I opened a small envelope that had been mailed to my new address. No return address. Inside was a photo of the lake house, the old one, before I fixed it. On the back, written in sloppy black marker, were the words, "Hope it was worth it." I smiled. It was. They thought I was just the guy with the hammer, but I kept the receipts. I kept my word. And I kept the contract. And in the end, I took everything they tried to steal.